Hello everyone and welcome back to the first unsponsored YouTube video where today we're talking about episode 1 weapons. I know I'm pretty late, but that's because I just wasn't really super excited about anything in particular during Act 1, but Act 2 is going to be having a weapon come out that I think is rather important. I think people should be prioritizing getting this weapon pattern, so I thought we would also talk about the rest of the weapons, including the reprised weapons, which means we have 15 of them to discuss because I am talking about the Act 3 weapons as well, the reprised and the episode weapons. So we got a lot to get through, but I'm going to try to go as fast as possible because some of these things I really don't even plan on giving too much attention in general. So we're going to start with Lost Signal, which is a new archetype of grenade launcher, an area denial frame. Easy way to think about this, it's a legendary Wither Horde. It kind of operates the same way. And much like Wither Horde, at least with the Catalyst, I am going to be recommending you get auto-loading holster in the first column. Could you do a couple of other things? You know, could you do strategist? Could you do stats for all? Could you do lead from gold? Absolutely, I think you could. But I think auto-loading holster just makes the most amount of sense for a weapon like this. Now, I will say I wasn't really the most impressed with this weapon in general when I was trying it out. I've tried out a couple of different roles, and, you know, I mean, like, it was okay, but the major strength that it has is its ability to create a lot of dark prismatic energy very, very quickly. So I'm sure there is something there as well with like being able to juice your dark transcendence energy meter super, super fast and then charge your light meter super, super fast individually and be able to just start chaining transcendence very, very quickly into an engagement. So that's kind of what I would be looking at for Lost Signal in terms of how I would want to use it. Second column, I think you're mainly looking at One for All. I think you're looking at Demo. I think you're maybe even looking at Reverberation a little bit if you're using it a bit more aggressively. You know, I'm always going to be a fan of One for All. This is kind of, you know, it's a weapon designed to hit multiple targets, so you should be able to get One for All rolling pretty quickly. But other than that, you know, I mean, stick with some kind of a damage perk. Stick with auto-loading holster. I don't think you can really go wrong. High ground, I don't think you're going to be using this thing on the Witness. I don't know. Maybe I think there's probably some sort of DPS rotation that gets Lost Signal involved in here as well. But for the 99.9% of you out there, I would just stick with auto-loading holster and then something that just fits your setup, right? Whether it's One for All, whether it's Reverberation or Demo. Stick with something like that. The only other weapon in the primary slot is a Veiled Threat, which is a stasis rapid fire frame auto rifle 720 RPM. This is the first stasis auto excluding Horror Story from last year's Festival of the Lost since Witch Queen, because we got like Crate, which is a random world drop, and then we got something else that I can't even remember. So it's the first one in a while. Unfortunately, the only thing here, I mean, I guess kind of fortunately, is Headstone. That's it. I mean, maybe there's some sort of like PvP thing in here if you wanted to do that. But when it comes to PvE, I mean, Headstone with something in this like, I don't even really want to give this that much attention. The recoil direction, like definitely arrowhead break, you know, anything in here, pretty much whatever it's kind of fitting for you. But dude, I literally don't have any word. Maybe you have it like a Desperate Measures play as well to make, if, you know, maybe you're a hunter with the Withering Blades or something like that. I don't know. But like really Headstone is the only thing here that I'm looking at. Maybe, okay, Strategist, okay. Shoot to Loot, I mean, that's more of like a swap thing. To the Pain, I don't think has been getting any real attention. Fragile Focus, more of a PvP thing. Threat Detector's like the only thing, because at least it gives you some kind of reload speed boost. That's it. I mean, it's pretty much Headstone or you ignore this thing. Like, I don't really know what else, or Desperate Measures. Let's just move on. Next up, we have Sightline Survey, which is a 180 RPM arc hand cannon. We're not really at a huge shortage of arc hand cannons, but I think the best comparison to make is probably going to be against Posterity, which is from Deepstone Crypt. You can also craft that weapon. And the main comparisons are because they're both arc 180 RPM hand cannons, and they can both get Volt Shot. And that's pretty much what I'm going to be suggesting here. If you do go with Volt Shot, you do need some sort of reload type perk. So that's going to be Keep Away. That's going to be Enlightened Action, because you really want to play around Volt Shot if you have Volt Shot, which requires a lot of reloading after killing of an enemy. It's just kind of what you do. Otherwise, are there other plays to make here? Sure. But it's like, while you have Volt Shot here, why not take advantage of the opportunity to have Volt Shot? Desperate Measures, okay. Precision Instrument, maybe. Kill Clip, it's a little old school, but you totally could. First Column, you're maybe triple tap. I'm personally leaning much towards Enlightened Action or Keep Away if I am going to be making any kind of a Volt Shot play. Although this is a 180 RPM hand cannon, I am personally not a big enjoyer of those. I play on PC though. I know maybe on console they're liked a little bit more, but otherwise, yeah, it's another like pretty cut and dry situation of you take Volt Shot and that's just kind of what you do. Next up, we got Timeworn Wayfarer, which is a 120 RPM scout, aggressive frame, much slower firing. First Solar Scout in, I want to say, about 7 seasons since we got Staccato, which is a world drop. And then before that, I think it was just Vision of Confluence out of Vault of Glass, right? So it's actually been a little bit since we've gotten a new Solar Scout. You're probably already seeing Heal Clip, Incandescent. I mean, it is quite a potent combo. It's a quite popular combo. It's arguably one of the better things that you can put on this thing. Incandescent is just going to take up a lot of attention from pretty much all of the other perks. Could you do 4th times? Yes. Could you do Keep Away? Yes. If you don't feel like you really need the extra heal clip or the extra healing in general, you could totally do that. Obviously, Strategist is also some kind of a play for any sort of class ability type thing, hunter stuff, if you want to mess around with that. But I would only be taking Strategist if you have an idea of how to really use it in mind. I wouldn't just be taking it willy-nilly. You really got to have a plan for it. Much like I didn't mention it in the previous weapon, but same kind of deal with that. So yeah, Incandescent is just going to be overwhelmingly the most popular pick for PvE purposes. For any sort of like PvP thing, I don't even know. I mean, like, you're probably not going to go Incandescent. You might go like Precision Instrument or maybe even Opening Shot, Eye of the Storm, some kind of situation like that. But we're not a PvP channel. We're talking about PvE, so we're looking more at Incandescent. We're looking at Desperate Measures, Heal Clip, 4th times, Keep Away. I think these are all very, very easy plays to make. Maybe even Dual Loader as well. I could see some arguments for Dual Loader if you wanted to drift that direction as well. I would probably even take Dual Loader over 4th times the Charm in certain situations. I am just kind of like a chronic reloader though. Yeah, I mean, 4th times probably a bit more valuable on something like a sniper rifle. I don't think it's as desperately needed on something like a scout rifle, more of like a workhorse weapon, but it works too, right? Like Keep Away, Dual Loader, for whatever you're more comfortable with. They all work. Next, new in Act 2, which is again out today, we have Corrasion, which is a heavy burst. That's a 2-burst pulse rifle. These are new with the Final Shape era, expansion era. And, I have really been liking Nullify from the raid, but I also have Firefly Incandescent on that thing. And you can just kind of go to town on some enemies. It encourages you to keep up that sustained fire. Whereas with something like Corrasion, yes, it does have Volt Shot, but I do think there are better weapons to be Volt Shotting stuff with than something like Corrasion. It's not that I don't think it's super valuable or anything. And honestly, what else are you really going to pick on this thing? Sure, you could do Volt, you could do One for All. I'm probably not going Focus Fury. I'm probably leaning towards One for All if I'm not doing something with Volt Shot. But you gotta be like willing to make the reloads happen if you want to be using Volt Shot. So this is more of like, to me, it's like a higher end type thing. It's something I'd be using in like a GM situation or something like that. I don't know if I'm really putting in the effort to run a Volt Shot pulse rifle in like lower tier content where something like an SMG can make that happen a lot more, or even the rocket sidearm from Warlord's Ruin, Indebted Kindness. I'm not saying it's bad. It's still probably like the top option on here other than, One for All. These are, depending on how you feel about certain things, these are very, very comparative, but you just need to be willing to do some extra reloading. So I am a pretty compulsive reloader. So like, for me, it's not that bad, but it is a little annoying to be like, shoot something, it dies, reload, Volt Shot, trigger the next thing, it dies immediately, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, That's all I got. But I mean, it's Volt Shot. It's probably what you're going to be taking on this thing, if not one for all. First column, I mean, Enlightened Action is just another one of those just very well-rounded, it kind of works everywhere type perks. I'm not really suggesting like perfect float, air trigger, perpetual motion, high impact reserves in like a PvE scenario, maybe pugilist, but like you're using a pulse rifle. We up close. Maybe you got some ranged melees, okay. And then eddy current, it's gotten better, but I still don't know how excited people really are. I'm probably leaning towards Enlightened Action on this thing. Next, we have the big ticket item, Aberrant Action. This is a solar rocket sidearm. These have been insanely popular during the year. One of the top weapons pretty much in terms of popularity, in terms of more endgame content. And this is the first one in the energy slot that is going to be craftable, because Indebted Kindness is from Warlord's Ruin. And if you don't have the patience to go farm one, or maybe you just don't even own Warlord's Ruin, then this is going to be your first access to a rocket sidearm in the special slot, or the middle slot, or the energy slot, whatever we're calling it nowadays. If there is one thing to prioritize getting the pattern for, it is this weapon. Do yourself the favor, get the pattern for this thing. Spend your engrams, prioritize it, get it, because as long as rocket sidearms are as good as they are right now and nothing changes, this is going to be a very popular pick. We have Heel Clip Incandescent if you want to roll that way. Otherwise, in the first column, Beacon Rounds. I know some people really like Beacon Rounds. Ambitious Assassin, I don't even think is that horrible of a choice. We also have Field Prep, and then you have Pugilist Strategist in case you're doing some kind of a build that uses those perks. In the second column, obviously Incandescent is going to be quite popular. I don't know about Reverberation. I don't really use this to try to like AoE stuff. So unless like Reverberation is super big detonation, I don't think I'm leaning towards that. Golden Tricorn should be not too tough to really pull off. I think it's something worth considering. I absolutely think you should consider Golden Tricorn for much harder hitting shots. You know, there's something to appreciate about Golden Tricorn, and considering how much you can really keep up Golden Tricorn depending on your class and your subclass, it's something to think about. I think it's something to think about. I think Golden Tricorn is, I think it's slept on a little bit, personally. And then otherwise, you got Demo, you got Swash. If you want to combine it with something over here, sure, you can do that. Like Harmony might even be some kind of like a swap play if you're not finding yourself on this particular weapon for long periods of time. I do find myself on it for long periods of time, so I'm not really going to benefit from Harmony. But, you know, if you find yourself more occasionally swapping to it as opposed to having it out all the time, it's something to also consider. Am I putting it high priority? No, but if I saw it out in the wild, I'd be like, okay, well, as long as you're using it right, fine. Otherwise, yeah, Heel Clip Incandescent's definitely going to be the most popular, and don't sleep on Golden Tricorn. That's all I'm saying. Don't sleep on it. The last of the energy weapons, this weapon is coming out in Act 3, Chronophage, which is a Void Trace Rifle. This is only the second one in the game. The first one is Hollow Denial from Season of the Haunted, and I'm pretty sure those are, it's mostly long gone. You might be able to get them, you might be able to get some red borders out of the Exotic Mission Rotator, something. I'm not 100%, but this one's coming out in few weeks, so maybe just wait for this if you're really desperate. I'm not terribly excited about anything here. This kind of feels more like a, hey, here's another option for you, more than like, we're looking to power creep the previous one. You got a repulsor destabilizing rounds combo if you're into that kind of thing. Otherwise, you know, it's some pretty like mostly mid-tier perks. I mean, the second column's got some good stuff. You got Desperate Measures. You got a One for All. I don't know if I'm really going target lock on this thing. You guys kind of know how I feel about target lock on anything that's basically not a heavy weapon at this point, power weapon at this point. So yeah, I'm mainly looking at Desperate Measures. I'm looking at One for All. Maybe I'm looking at the Repulsor destabilizing combo. I'm still not really too sold on destabilizing. I think they got to reduce the internal cooldown for me to start really getting excited about it. Of course, you have Pugilist if you want to make any kind of plays for that, or Strategist. These perks are starting to be everywhere now. Auto-loading holster, I don't really know if I'm going for auto-loading holster. I might be going for Feeding Frenzy because it's the only like reload perk on this thing, and you kind of want to use a trace rifle sort of like a primary weapon, so you're going to want some decent reload speed on this thing. Yeah, I'm kind of middle of the road on this thing. Demos here too, if you want to make a play for that. But yeah, I'm pretty middle of the road on this thing. I think if you want to be using a void trace rifle, I mean, I'd probably be using Ruinous Effigy. I think that thing is still really, really fun. Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle on this thing. Next up, we have our first power weapon, Ill Omen, which is a stasis caster frame sword. Look, I mean, Cold Steel, this is like the one unique thing on a stasis sword, right? It's for making any sort of a play with slows and freezes and all that kind of stuff. If you want to do Relentless Whirlwind, like, it's here. Like, pretty much every sword, I feel like, has this combination already. So, if you do go this way, it's because you need to do something with like a stasis surge on it or something like that. It's like, it's a sword, man. It's a sword. I don't really feel like there's a huge amount to really say about swords in terms of like their main traits. I feel like it's more about what frame they have. This is a caster frame sword. So, I mean, like, sure, attrition orbs. Maybe you need to be making some orbs for your team. Okay, one for all. Maybe you're kind of using it as like an add clear type weapon. Fine. But otherwise, like, it's a sword. You grab the best damage perks for a sword and you just wail on target, and that's about it. And if you want Cold Steel for some stasis specific plays, go for it. We just had the slammer too, so if you've been playing the game for a little while, you didn't just join with Final Shape, you probably have a bunch of slammers sitting in your vault just kind of wasting away as well. So that's about it. Next up, we got Faith Keeper, which is a void 15 RPM precision frame rocket. We had Braytech Osprey for a good chunk of the last expansion cycle. So this, I guess, would be if you don't have one of those just yet. There's only 4, maybe 5 or 6 perks that I'm even remotely looking at on this thing, and the main 4 are Clown, Auto-Loading Holster, Explosive Light, and Bipod, with maybe I'm looking at Field Prep, and maybe I'm looking at Frenzy in like hyper-specific situations if I thought I needed them. When it comes down to Clown versus Auto-Loading, it just depends on what your needs are in the moment, right? Are you doing some sort of swap thing where you would want Auto-Loading Holster? Okay, then you're going Auto-Loading Holster. If you're just firing off as many rockets as you possibly can, then you're going to go with Clown Cartridge. That one is a very, very simple one to make. Maybe even Field Prep as well, but Clown Cartridge is probably what you're going to want to lean towards. When it comes to Explosive Light versus Bipod, I tend to lean more towards Bipod just as like an overall thing, because I don't know how many like orbs of power I'm going to have access to at any given specific moment. And I also don't really have the math on like Explosive Light versus Bipod. So like maybe someone in the comments chime in. I haven't done a ton of rocket testing lately, so I'm actually a little fuzzy on the numbers. But either way, like if you had one or the other, like you're not getting removed from my raid group. Like it's fine. Yeah. And then Frenzy, I mean, yeah, it's 15%, right? Over Explosive Light, which is 25%, but it only lasts until as many orbs as you have, right? So maybe there's some kind of a frenzy play if you don't think you're going to be around a ton of orbs of power. That's really about it on this thing. Pretty much everything else I'm going to be ignoring. I'm going to be pretty much ignoring everything else. Finally, this weapon is coming in Act 3, a 900 RPM solar machine gun. Ew, that is tough. Like when I first saw it, I was like, "Ooh, new solar machine gun." And then I saw 900 RPM and I was like, no. The last time we got a solar machine gun was Unwavering Duty. That is for Trials. And if you're not participating in Trials, the previous opportunity before that was Fixed Odds from Duality. And I don't even remember the previous opportunity before that. Maybe Avalanche from a holiday event from like the Dawning. I think it's the Dawning. So it's been a little bit since we've just had like a solar machine gun just kind of put very generally into the game here. It's got some good stuff on it if you're willing to tolerate, 900 RPM. I'm probably not really gonna be messing around with it too much, but it's got some stuff. You want to go heel clip incandescent again, you could totally do that. Another big combo people are gonna be looking at is Envious Killing Tally to really make Killing Tally go burr. You just gotta be on top of your Envious Assassin procs, which I know not everyone is gonna be on top of, at least to like its absolute maximum ammo restoration, right? You'll at least be able to get a little bit of ammo into your weapon to make killing tally work a bit better. Could you do slideways to restore ammo as well with killing tally? Yeah. I mean, I'm not built like that. Like, if you're built like that, okay, I'm probably going to be leaning towards Envious Assassin more than slideways. Catch my ass sliding around the Pale Heart of the Traveler, reloading 14 bullets into my gun. Otherwise, you got One for All. One for All is good. Adagio's only appeared on one other machine gun, and it's Marcado. Correct. You totally knew that. But I don't think I've literally seen it used a single time. So, like, maybe there's something to explore here, because it's like, this is 900 RPM and Marcado, I think, is 450 RPM. So, like, there might be something here with Adagio. Maybe. I'm willing to, like, take a look at it in Act 3, but I'm not expecting to be, you know, super wowed by it or anything like that. First column, yeah, heal clip, sure. Enlightened action, sure. Stats for all. I don't know if I'm going deconstruct. I'm probably not going firmly planted. I'm not going slideways. And then Envious Assassin, also something to consider with killing tally, or really any one of these perks, right? You want to go Envious One for All. You want to go Envious Incandescent. I'm not going to stop you. That's also a great combination. You just got to be on top of your Envious Assassin procs. That's really about it. Yeah, that's all the episode weapons. Let's hit the reprised weapons now. Hopefully this video isn't going too long. Okay, first of the Season 9 Season of Dawn reprised weapons is Breachlight, which is a heavy burst strand sidearm. This thing has actually a good range of things, and I don't really feel comfortable saying, like, this is the perk roll to get, because it just depends on the setup that you're going for. Like, if you want to play around a specific setup or a specific build, you're going to pretty much be customizing the Breachlight to how you want to be playing, or whatever your build is, right? Like, if you're running some sort of grenade thing, Demo Adrenaline, that's an option. You got Pugilist Swash. You got Slice Hatchling in case you're more focused on Strand, right? Desperate Measures kind of mixes with everything. So this is one where I think you need to be a bit more flexible. You need to know, like, okay, this is my setup and I want to use a Breachlight, therefore I'm going to be running with X and Y perks. I don't really feel comfortable in just saying, like, oh, you know, just pick these and you're fine. It just depends. It depends on what you're going for. Next, we got Patron of Lost Causes, which is a lightweight frame, 200 RPM scout. I think people have kind of been using this as a replacement for Night Watch, which was a very popular scout rifle for a very, very long time. I've seen a lot of, like, rapid hit explosive payload, or like stats for all explosive payload, triple tap explosive payload. I thought more people were going to be maybe leaning towards kinetic tremors. I personally haven't really been the most interested in kinetic tremors overall, so maybe even I'm leaning towards explosive payload. I don't know. This is more of like a very old school setup when it comes to a scout rifle, if people are even using scout rifles nowadays, because I personally am not. That old school combination is there if you want it. You got kinetic tremors if you want it. I don't know if I'm doing precision instrument. I think that's maybe more of like a PvP type thing. If you want to go that direction, I wouldn't blame you for wanting to go with precision instrument. You just got to be really precision. You got to be really precise with your shots, because as soon as you miss one, you lose all the stacks, right? So it kind of comes down to how confident are you feeling in your shots. Otherwise, you know, I'm not going to blame you for just kind of keeping it old school, rapid hit explosive payload. But also, this is not a weapon I'm really prioritizing in pretty much any way. Next up, we got Line in the Sand, which is an arc linear fusion rifle. If you remember, the last arc linear fusion rifle we got was Sail Spy Pitch Glass from Season of Plunder, and that thing was not very good. And then before that, we had Storm Chaser. I was right, Storm Chaser, and that was from Duality, and that was a 3-burst linear fusion, which it's fine. It was good. So just from that alone, just from the fact that we haven't really had that many arc linears, I would try to make sure that you get a decent Line in the Sand at some point to toss in the vault. This isn't craftable, by the way, so you are going to have to actually go get one. But in terms of the perks that you're going to be using, I mean, Clown Cartridge, maybe Demo for some sort of throwing your grenade to reload your magazine type situation. You could do that. Rapid hit's kind of like a more last resort type thing. You do get reload speed out of it, but I'm much more leaning toward, like, clown cartridge is number one to me. We want to limit our reloads as much as possible. And then in the other column, you're leaning towards bait and switch, or you're leaning towards firing line if you really don't want to deal with bait and switch. Reservoir burst, I don't think we can get this magazine high enough to really get as much value out of reservoir burst as we can something like bait and switch. I'm going to be leaning towards clown bait and switch. This is the role that I'm going to be hunting down. As soon as I get it, I'm going to be A-okay with that. Next up, we have a fan favorite in Perfect Paradox coming in Act 2, which, again, is today. In terms of the perks, though, trench barrel, sure, 1-2 punch. These are like premier shotgun perks. You could also do swashbuckler. You are going to be in melee range to pull off a lot of your shotgun kills, right? But, I run with threat detector 1-2 punch on my Ikelos shotgun that I was using for a lot of the Strand Titan melee shenanigans where people are insta-giving bosses, although now hunters can do that even better. So I will probably be replicating what I have on my Ikelos also on Perfect Paradox. You could do dual loader. You could do pugilist if you're combining with swashbuckler. Obviously, that's a hybrid or a synergistic combo. I couldn't think of the word synergy, even though I just used it a trillion times recently. I'm going to be leaning towards threat detector 1-2 punch, maybe a trench barrel situation if we ever find ourselves wanting a lot of super high shotgun damage, like we're running with Legend of Acreus or something like that. Yeah, otherwise, threat 1-2 punch. That's probably what I'm doing. Finally, coming in Act 3, we have the return of Martyr's Retribution. The only other solar waveframe grenade launcher that we've had is Explosive Personality. That came out over 2 years ago now, so we're getting a little refresher on the solar wave frames. What do we got here? What do you know? Heel clip incandescent, again, if you really want that. I think you actually got some options here. Obviously, auto-loading holster works very, very well with wave frames. Envious Assassin is like kind of like a maybe situation to me. I think I want the convenience more of just auto-loading holster than I do want to be checking Envious procs. I'll take a look at both. Kill clip it's okay. I think it's a little underwhelming. I'd definitely be rolling with Desperate Measures over kill clip. I think, assuming you can actually trigger Desperate Measures somewhat reliably, I think I'd probably be leaning towards that direction. Unless maybe you're doing like some sort of auto-loading thing, you're maybe not having the GL out as much, or you're relying on this to do your reloads, and therefore you're not in as much control of your reloads as opposed to like a field prep or a demo situation. Then I could see you leaning towards maybe incandescent or something. Even though incandescent, I feel like you'd probably want something like Envious or field prep or demo to really facilitate trying to get more scorch stacks onto targets. So yeah, auto-loading, I mean, it's a good perk, just maybe, I don't know, maybe it just doesn't really mesh as well with some of the other things that are available here. Demo, adrenaline, you have demo, Desperate Measures. There's actually quite a lot of different combinations here that I think can absolutely work. Again, it depends on your setup. This is one of those weapons where you need to flex the weapon more towards what you are actually doing, as opposed to just like, this is the ad slaying weapon and that's it. Because we don't have like chain reaction here. We don't have one for all here, right? We don't have these easily proccable things where all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is just like for slaying out, and that's it. So okay, hopefully that wasn't too long. I tried to go as quick as possible. There's 15 different weapons there, but that is all of the weapons coming for episode 1. Again, if there is one weapon that I think you need to go get, aberrant action, it is out today. Please go get the pattern for it. Please, please, please do yourself a favor. It will be very likely in my like top 5 weapons to go craft from episodes 1, 2, and 3 before they go away type situation sometime next year. Just do yourself the favor. Go get it now. And other weapons we'll talk about another time. All right. Be good. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm not really super crazy about anything on here. You have repulsor brace destabilizing round. I can't even talk, bro.